Hi, my name is Noma Mdlazi. I create content on mental wellness and personal development. And in this video, I want to share with you my painful journey of social media detox, of how I've gotten to a point where I've spent more than 3 months without social media itself. And I can tell you now that it was a truly difficult season for my life. It was such a huge shift. It was just a huge transition that I had to adapt. So I struggled emotionally, mentally, and in many different ways. But at the same time, I can tell you now that it was such a beautiful opportunity to reinvent myself as a person, to redefine myself as a person. It was such a beautiful opportunity to because at the end of the day, at the end of that season, I got to meet a better version of myself. So please do join me in this wonderful conversation. Let's get on to it. So the truth about my own journey of social media detox is that it was not planned, it was not intentional, but somewhere, somehow, I found myself at a position where I was going through that season, a season of without social media. And this is how my story goes. What had happened is that I had gotten scammed. A few of my positions, cell phone included, including cash, like something around 500 rand last year, September, right? And I struggled emotionally for like a week because I have this intention of really understanding that I can really survive without much of materialistic stuff, right? As a person, I think since I've adopted the minimalism lifestyle, this is what I've just told myself as a person. I realized that really I can survive without much of these luxurious stuff we all think we do need, right? I just enjoy having less as a person. I truly enjoy as much as I do with in terms of relationships and everything. I enjoy having less, even materialistic stuff. Even Kwame as a person, you can see as well that I don't have a fancy hairstyle, right? But what had happened is that I had gotten scammed those materialistic stuff, and my budget was very tight. It was just truly tight, and I realized that I couldn't afford to buy myself a cell phone at this point in my life. And it's funny because when I grew up, I don't really come from a well-off family, but from the age of 16, every time when I've lost a cell phone, my family would actually make sure that within 2 months' time, they actually buy me a cell phone. I do have a smartphone because they're
like, no, research.
but you'll realize, but I wasn't even doing research as much on my cell phone. I was actually doing most of lessons in WhatsApp, Facebook, not really research as such, right? So really, I've never gotten to a point where I had to spend just living without social media wasn't really a norm in my life, because I grew with social media from the age of 16 up until now. It was such a painful experience really to be in that season where I had to go through that moment without a cell phone. What I can say now is that I struggled emotionally, I struggled mentally, but I was just intentional about the season that I was going through. I just saw that as an opportunity, or something like as a test, because I realized that maybe God wants to test whether if I say I can survive with less, can I really survive with less stuff? So it was, I just took that as a test. And there were people that I spoke to after I had gotten scammed. Amajida, like, or just people I live with, and when I explained how this happened, and they're like, how
scam sa khaleyana noma.
And I'm like, Haibo, how will I know? How will I know Mdasekhaya? Because I grew up in the villages. Half of my life I spent it in the villages. I'm not exposed to the township life. I am not exposed to the city life. So how do you expect me to have known how these scams kind of things, because in the villages it is just an normally safe space, right? I'm not saying that all villages are like that, but on an average situation, you would never utuhamba elalini and then there's someone with bad intentions for you. Like, there's just none of such things, right? So it was truly a difficult season for myself to get to a point where I don't have social media. What I did during that period is that I tried to read more books. That is when I was reading a lot, because I realized that most of my time, really, I was spending it in these distractions on cell phones, social media, chatting to people, stalking people. These things, Nyani, that are not really productive as such. I was just constantly consuming information that wasn't really helping me, just looking at the trends and doing all these things. But after losing my cell phone, I found that as an opportunity to read more books, to watch more videos on that are truly meaningful, and also those which are entertaining as well, because I had a PC. Although I did not have access to social media, this does not mean that I did not have access to the internet itself, because yes, there is the library. I had access to the library. I also had access to my PC, right? So it means that if I wanted to go through those social media, whatever, I would have done them, but most of the time I would be using my laptop for watching videos, truly informative videos that I realized now that they are truly part of the reason how I've been able to transform my life to find a better version of myself. So I had to go through that season where really in a space of 2 to 3 weeks, I'd be reading books every now and then. So it was just a norm for me to just read. I got into reading more. It was such a beautiful opportunity for me to realize that consuming good information, really factual information that actually builds you as a person, it does have the capacity, it does have the ability to build you, to shape a different version of yourself, right? That was a truly transformative season over my life. And the other thing that I realized during that time is that as well, if you're not constantly dragged into social media every now and then, you're not constantly on your screen every now and then, you are actually, if most of your time you're just fully present with the people you live with, or you're just off social media, it means that your brain is just so much at ease. It is so much at ease, it is at peace, because your brain is not strained in all these social media platforms. It is such a beautiful moment to be at a position where you're just at peace, because you're not worried about anything. You're not worried mang arengo WhatsApp or who does this in these trends, because you're just fully present with the things that you're doing as a person. So it was a truly beautiful shift for myself as a person. I got to find a better version of myself during that season, as much as difficult as it was, because I had to read more books, I had to consume more truly powerful information that have been able to leverage my personal development as a person, right? And the other really beautiful thing is that during that season, I had gotten the privilege to read a book by Ryan Holiday, which says that the obstacle is the way, right? It's one of the powerful books I read that time that even now I still remember vividly clear. That I still remember, because they've truly impacted my life. Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, turning adversity to advantage. It was such a beautiful, powerful read for myself, because I realized that in many of the things that I wanted to do as a person, I'm constantly hindered by obstacles, right? But in that book, Ryan Holiday, at the beginning of the book, just even before the first chapter, so there's this king wherever who had just placed a gold and then beneath and then above that gold, he put just a huge stone where just on the road, where if people wanted to pass, they wouldn't be able to pass, right? So this is really what happened. When people wanted to pass, they wouldn't be able to pass. They would just return to where they came from, instead of trying to actually remove the stone, remove the obstacle, so that they could actually find gold. So people didn't really do that. They just, when they realized that there's a stone, they just gotten back to where they're coming from. And the king was actually disappointed in these people. He was truly disappointed, because now he understood what he has hidden beneath that stone. So the people failed to remove the stone, to remove the obstacle, so that they could finally find the gold, what it is that value whoever does want gold worth to understand. So it was such a beautiful powerful read for me to understand how important it is for all of us as a people to be intentional about working out our way through obstacles. Obstacles shouldn't be the hindrance. At any given situation in your life, whatever it is that you're going through, it is important, it is very crucial for you to understand that if this is your obstacle, work out your way around that situation until you get to a point where things finally work out your way. And the other really important thing in working out on challenges, obstacles in life, is the ability to understand the importance of timing. It is very crucial for you to understand such things. So it was such a powerful read, and as a person now, I'm at a point where I understand, and I deeply understand this clearly, that there are really no obstacles in life that could hinder my progress as a person. I have a choice to dictate what should happen in life, because there's a lot of things that does happen, but if they are beyond your control, then they are beyond your control. But there's some of the things that we could always work out on. We can always work out our way towards those such things, such that we get to a point where we actually get to achieve the desired results in life. So in my journey to social media detox, I got the privilege, I got the advantage to fully reinvent myself as a person. I was never really struggling as such in quite a lot of ways. I realized that there is so much power in the ability to be by yourself, to be without social media, to be fully present with the people you engage with, without really being distracted and keep looking and checking out on your cell phone, right? So it was such a powerful shift for me, and I wish I could be able to depart this information to other people, to understand how important it is for you to fully govern your life as a person, to be more intentional of where you spend your attention, where you spend your attention span, so that, because ultimately the brain gets affected in all these things. It is very important for all of us to be truly intentional about where we spend most of our attention span, so that we could just finally attain the desired versions of ourselves as a people. So it was a truly painful journey of really having to detach from social media for such a long time for myself, but it was also a beautiful moment for me to reinvent myself as a person, to find a better version of myself as a person. It is very important for you as well to try this out, because there's a lot of people who keep telling me that how you move around without your cell phone, you come to work without your cell phone, what if there's an emergency? No, it's just that people live with so much anxiousness. They live with this fear of that something bad will happen. But the truth is that if something bad does happen with my child, with my mother, or whoever I care for, there are people around that place who could actually be able to help, right? And that's just how it is. It's just the nature of it. But now people are just so anxious. They're just ready to hear bad news over their lives. And I'm in a position where I understand that whatever that does happen going forward, it is just nature. It is not something that has never happened before. It is very important for me to understand that I can decide to guide the peace. Excuse me. I can be able to guide how the level of peace I want in my life. So most of my time really I spend with this peaceful mindset, and I understand how important it is excuse me, I understand how important it is to be fully at peace, to be at ease without really being anxious of quite a lot of things. So in my journey of really social media detox, I got an opportunity to reinvent myself as a person, because even now it's been like 3 months since I've bought my new cell phone, but I am able to use it when needed, right? And I can go to work, clock in, spend 12 hours and then come back home without to have touched any cell phone, without to have gotten to social media in one way or another. And that is very healthy for your brain, right? It is very important for you to be truly intentional about really detaching from social media in one way or another, right? Because just the cell phone itself, it is just highly addictive. It is just a highly addictive medium at this point in our lifetime. And if we're unable to be able to minimize the ability or just be able to work out on with it such that we don't lose in the process, not really enriching these cell phone companies, that such that little we could be able to fully live our lives, then that it would be such a beautiful way to live. So Naval Ravikant, one of billionaires in India, he talks about the fact that there's just too much information during our time, and those who could be able to preserve their peace in life, it's only those who could be able to resist all this too much information that is available out here, right? So it is important for all of us to be truly intentional about consuming information at the right time, for the right purpose, the right information itself. Because now, if you're constantly dragged in all these trains, when do you really have time to focus on yourself as a person? You can't. You never really have time to focus on yourself because you're busy checking people on Instagram. You're just busy with your desires because now you're exposing yourself to a lot of things which are completely unnecessary. And at some point, they will leave you miserable simply because you're wasting your energy in things that are completely unnecessary for your life. So it is very important. It is very crucial for you to understand how important it is on how you use social media itself, because that will help you determine it's either your presence and the future. Because now if you're constantly dragged in social media, you keep checking all these trends, you have all these desires, you never really have time to be by yourself. And Naval also talks about the fact that desire is suffering, right? It is very important for you to be intentional on where you expose yourself, where you expose your attention span, because now if you desire more than one thing at the same time, you will be struggling emotionally, because at the end of the day you won't be able to fulfill your desires all at once. You can never, right? The most important thing is to focus on one desire. You stick to that one desire, you work out on it, right? It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, for you to be truly intentional about how you use your cell phone, because really I'm at a position as well where now I understand that I can leave my place, go somewhere without social media and be at peace and not feel like you're something short. No, without not much of being anxious, right? Just the ability to be fully yourself, be fully present with your kids, your wife, your woman, your kids. You just love them intentionally and you give them your undivided attention. you're just fully present with them without necessarily to be talking to them while you're busy with your cell phone. This just the ability to live without social media, it gives you the capacity, the ability to be fully present with the things you're doing, because you do one thing, you fully focus on it, and the brain is not really struggling in all these things. It just learns to focus. It just learns to fully grab the experiences you're having as a person. You're on a vacation, you take out your cell phone, you put it outside, you're fully present in that vacation. You enjoy all the beautiful and the wonderful experiences. You can have your camera if you want to take your memories without necessarily having a phone or a distracting medium with you, right? And these days there's these cell phone these watches where you could actually make calls. So it is such a beautiful moment for our lifetime, really, to get to a point where there's quite a lot of things that could be altered in many different ways to suit different people. These watches, minimalist watches, is just a perfect fit. It is such a beautiful thing to be able to just because Nyani, the most important thing is actually to be accessible, right? And if there's an emerging situation, people normally do still call, right? So if they can call you through your watch, that is a perfect fit without necessarily you having to have your distracting medium, your cell phone or wherever, right? So Dandapani also talks about this, that if you put your cell phone on the table during a meeting, then you've invited all the cell phone itself in that meeting. It means that you've invited the distraction itself in that meeting, and you won't be able to focus, really. You won't be able to focus at the end of the day, because you'll constantly be dragged when these beeps keep coming, these notifications every now and then, and you can't be fully present in that meeting, in that conversation you're trying to fix, right? So it is very important for all of us to understand how important it is to just keep our minds at ease, so that we could just acquire peace, be more peaceful, without really struggling in distraction, in being distracted by the cell phone itself, because it is such a highly addictive and destructive medium of our time. And if we fail to utilize it so that we could just win, it means that we will spend most of our time struggling in many different ways. We will not be able really to control a lot of things that does happen in our lives. It is very important for us to take control of our lives without necessarily being distracted by a simple thing, to just be a slave to such a thing. No, we should get to a point where we could just acquire full governance of our lives, where we can be more intentional of where we spend our lives, our attention span, because that ultimately dictates the thoughts, and that the thoughts that we entertain in our brains, and the things that could actually manifest at the end of the day, right? So that is my story of social media detox. It was a truly painful one. Imagine getting scammed and having to get to a position where you live without a cell phone, while you've spent live a life where you've spent more than half of your life living with a cell phone device, and now you constantly have to adapt, you have to adjust, you have to know how to get bored, basically. So because with what I've been doing about watching informative videos and reading books, I realized that I had truly had more time for all these things, but I was just spending it mostly on my cell phone, which is why I always felt like there was really no time for reading and all these things. So wherever you spend your attention, where you invest your time and energy, just try to figure out going forward, is it not social media? Is it not something that's highly distractive, that will ruin my life, that will not help me, that will not serve me going forward? Because really, I can tell you now that there's a lot of information out here, and if you keep trying to keep track of all these trends, you won't pass. No matter how smart you think you are, you won't pass, because you won't be able to acquire information in a specific field and actually become an expert, because now you're just falling for all these trends. You're not, unless you're following for trends because you're creating content for that trends, you're actually making money by simply following on trends and then create content. That is how when it is beneficial for you to be wasting so much of your energy trying to keep track with trends and everything, right? So Robert Greene also talks about this, that intelligence is the ability to it has like something that to do with just intelligence itself has to do with intensity. So for you to be a master in whatever it is that you're saying, you're doing, you have to, that information has to be very intense. And in trends, when it comes to trends, there's quite a lot of things that are just trending, and there's no specific thing that normally does trend. So you can't really be an expert in anything if you keep just following with trends and you're actually doing nothing with that information, which at some point you might need to follow it in many different ways. So it is very important for all of us to be truly intentional of where we spend our attention span, because I realized that now as a person, although I thought I did not have time to read books and do everything, while this distracting medium was actually taken away forcefully, painfully by God or by these criminals or whatever, but I realized that I've been spending so much of my time with that distracting medium while it was not serving me in many different ways at the same time. But I had now gotten the opportunity to just read books, because I was actually acquiring those books from the library for free. So it was such a beautiful moment. It was such a powerful shift for myself as a person, and I hope that as well you also afford yourself the privilege to just experience how it is to live without a cell phone, because it is such a painful thing for me to see people who are just highly addicted to a cell phone. Imagine even like old people, like I see some people who are older than me, even when he's at work, he can't just be fully focused in anything that he's doing. He's just highly focused on his cell phone, and it's such a painful thing to see someone becoming a slave of something ebanjwa ngesandla. It is such a painful thing. I hope you do take governance over your life. You understand how important it is for you to just be intentional of how you use your cell phone, right? Thank you so much for joining me in this beautiful conversation. Thank you. Please make sure that you subscribe, you like, you comment in this beautiful conversation. Thank you so much.